Hi, Sheila Keeter here, teacher for inclusion. And today I'm going to talk about 15 middle school books that are highly engaging for middle school students. So the first one I'm going to start with is Ghost Boys by Jewel Parker Rhodes. This is a bit of a heavy novel, but it's important to today's political climate. It's about a young man who is shot and killed, not a young man, he's actually a child. He's shot and killed by a police officer. And what I love about this book is that it's not just about justice, but it's also a book about healing. So once he becomes a ghost, he meets the officer's daughter, the officer who killed him, his daughter. And there's a healing process amongst the two of them. The second one is The 57 Bus, which is also a fairly heavy book by Dashka Slater. It's a true story that took place in Oakland, California. And it is about a agender teenager named Sasha who appears to be male, wearing a female skirt on a bus. And there are some boys that are messing around and they light Sasha's skirt on fire, which leads to this horrible experience for Sasha, and thankfully who did live. And the big controversy is about whether or not Richard, the one who lit the skirt on fire, should be charged for a hate crime and as an adult, and he is a teenage student. The third one is Hey Kiddo by Jarrett Krasowska. And this is a wonderful book for healing. It's about a young child, who has to go live with his grandparents because his mom is a heavy heroin addict. And it shows the process in which he is able to deal with the pain from her addiction. And how he does that is by drawing. And we find out in the end of the book that the author, Jarrett Krasowska, is actually the young boy in the story, and it is his story, and it's a story of success and how there is hope, and how the cycle of addiction can be broken. The next one is New Kid by Jerry Craft, and this is a really fun read. It's about a young African-American boy who goes to an almost all-white private school, and he deals with all of the typical middle school stuff, but there's an extra layer in there where he has to deal with all of the prejudgments of who he is and what he probably likes and what his talents are based on the fact merely that he's African American. The next one is Rebound by Kwame Alexander, and this is an excellent book. He is such an artist, such a poet. There's so much you can do with his work, but this one is about a young boy named Josh who has lost his father, and his mom is at her wit's end and sends him away to live with his grandparents for the summer, where he is able to find himself and find his smile. Class Act is the sequel to New Kid. So it is told from the perspective of the same character, Jordan. However, there's a big focus on one of the other characters in the book and what his struggle is as an African-American student at an almost all-white private school. Then we have Track Series, and I have all my notes in there. We have Patina, Sunny, Ghost, and Lou. And I'll just briefly talk about each one. So Lou is an African-American albino teenager, and he struggles because he cannot really find his place in either world. Ghost is a young teenager who was shot at and almost killed by his own father, who's now in jail, and he lives with his mom, and he struggles. They struggle financially. Sunny is a teenager who has lost his mom. His mom died during the childbirth of Sunny, which has all these layers. His dad is resentful towards him and treats him a certain way because of that. And we have Patina, whose father was not really ever in the picture and whose mother has lost her legs due to diabetes. So she now lives with her godparents who are now her now adopted parents. And all of these, the common theme that runs through them is that they're all on the track team, and they have this amazing coach, of course, who kind of brings them together and really helps them to find their way through or navigate their way through all of these difficult, adverse waters. Then we have Booked by Kwame Alexander. Booked is really interesting in that it's a very fun, entertaining, engaging read that students do enjoy. Sometimes I think they forget that it's about books, like the theme is about books, but there's a storyline in here where there's a teenage boy who falls in love with a girl. And at the very end, they join a book club, but it's so much more than that. And again, with Kwame Alexander, you could probably do so many of the standards using his poems alone. And what I love about it is that he doesn't follow the conventions of grammar. He does all kinds of things that kind of go outside the lines, and students tend to like that. Then we have Hatchet, which is about a young man who gets stranded in the Canadian woods, and he has to find ways to talk himself back into living, basically back into surviving. And we learn a lot about attitude and how attitude plays a role in everything that we do and our successes and our failures. I also have Monster, which is a book about a young man who is accused of murder. He is supposedly the one who was the lookout who was supposed to check a convenience store to see if there was a particular person working there that evening, and that man ends up getting murdered by two other young men. And they're all just sort of grouped into one trial. And it's a very interesting story. You're not really sure at the end. Well, I'm not going to give away the end. I'll just stop there. And there's two more that I don't have with me. One is Sheets by Brenna Thumler. And that's a really cute story. It's cute, but it's also very heart-wrenching. It's about a girl who lost her mom, and she's able to see ghosts, and her family's about to lose the business, and some ghost steps up and tries to help her. And that's one graphic novel. And then another one, This Was Our Pact, is an adventure-filled graphic novel about a bunch of boys who set out to see where the Chinese lanterns go once they're in the water. And there's only two of them left that make it. The rest return home. And it's just a really fun, adventurous book for you can figure out which teen that works for that particular book. Anyhow, thank you so much for listening to this, and I hope that you have some insight and you're able to use some of those either for your whole class or for independent reading. All right, this is Miss Keeter, and I'm signing off. I want to go over the list really quickly again. We have Ghost Boys by Jewel Parker Rhodes, The 57 Bus by Dashka Slater, Hey Kiddo by Jarrett Krasowska, New Kid by Jerry Kraft, Rebound by Kwame Alexander. We have The Track Series by Jason Reynolds. We have Class Act by Jerry Kraft. We have Booked by Kwame Alexander, Hatchet by Paulson, and Monster by Myers, Walter Dean Myers. Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye.